did contribute, but it was not the sole contributing factor.
That's why we say it did contribute.
Yes, but not in a very major, significant way that one could say, no, it's because of the Nigerians. No, it was not.
The issue of the Nigerians was not the only reason. We've discussed the other reason. So at Kudang, you said there was a mutiny. Can you tell us who participated in those discussions, sowing the seeds of a mutiny?
Most of the junior officers at the time, I cannot name all, but the few that I can name, which myself and Sana Sabali subsequently brought on board and talked to be part of the process, were Alpha Kinte, Lieutenant Alpha Kinte, and Lieutenant Kante.
First name, Lieutenant Kante?
It's Alaji Kante.
Good. So, kindly tell us about the planning for this school.
So, upon our return from Kudang, myself and Sana Sabali took things further. We approached Alaji Kante and Alpha Kinte separately and talked to them about this idea. And
what idea?
Taking over the government. So we spoke to them about this whole plot, and they bought in.
At this stage, you had a brother who was also in the army, correct?
Yes, sir, I did. Yes.
And he was also an officer like yourself?
Absolutely.
Did you bring him into the plan?
No way, I did not.
And why is that?
You see, he, I believe, would never have bought into it, and we might have argued, and that would have been it. I never informed him at any one time of the plans to take over the government. He was never part of it.
Okay, so you discussed with Sana Sabali, Alpha Kinte, and Alaji Kante.
Yes, sir.
And then proceed from there.
So, when we met, we were second lieutenants, all of us. We said, we decided that, we need somebody a little bit more senior, somebody with a little bit more experience, somebody who will be able to lead, somebody who we have confidence in, somebody who we can rely on. And we collectively chose Lieutenant Basiru Barrow. And we approached him, and he agreed. And so, the original 5 members of the plot to overthrow the Jawara government were Lieutenant Basiru Barrow, Lieutenant Alpha Kinte, Lieutenant Alaji Kante, Lieutenant Sana Sabali, and myself.
Do you recall how many months before July 22nd was this plan hatched?
I cannot recall exactly, but from the time we left Kudang, I am not sure whether it was April or March. It must have been after independence. Well, I could be wrong, but please go back to the records. I don't want to inadvertently mislead the Commission.
But this group of 5,
yes,
the membership later changed. Could
yes.
you tell us about that?
Well, we once met outside the camp in amongst some lime trees. There were some lime trees somewhere adjacent to Yundum camp, and we went there. And
does it have a name?
No, I think there was an agricultural installation next door, and we crossed the fence, and then we went, because we could not talk in the barracks. We had to find a way, but we were spotted by military intelligence, and they reported the matter. So obviously, treasonous. The stakes are very high, And so, one after the other, they decided to withdraw.
Who withdrew?
If I can remember, it must have been, well, I cannot remember between Alaji Kante and Alpha Kinte who withdrew first, but I know they were perhaps the first two in succession to leave. Then there was three of us, Lieutenant Barrow, myself, and Sana Sabali. So we had no choice but to bring others on board. Three of us, three officers, cannot launch a coup like this. I suggested Yaya Jammeh, and the response that I got from Barrow was not a good one. Sana Sabali was a little bit tame.
Tell us about the response you got from Barrow. What did he say?
He told me, "Ndoke nyimma fanlong."
What does that mean in English?
He does. Well, what is the direct? Okay, direct translation is that he doesn't know himself, but we know what it means in English, that he's arrogant. Even though I tried to talk to him, he wouldn't buy it. But I had gone ahead and spoke to Jammeh anyway, despite Basiru Barrow telling me not to. So I had spoke to Jammeh, and he came on board. But the funny thing is, after telling me that Yaya Jammeh is arrogant, he told me that he's the type that will tell you that he can hold one LMG here, one LMG there, and then that's
do the Rambo thing.
Exactly, which as professional soldiers is rubbish. But funnily, he actually said that he can hold an LMG here and then take State House. He did tell me that.
So from that point on, you guys knew that he was prone to exaggeration. He was prone to saying things that would not cut the grain.
Yes, but you take some things with a pinch of salt, or as a joke,
or a bag of salt.
Well, a bag of salt is a little bit too harsh. Between friends and comrades, you do have people that exaggerate all the time, but you don't take those comments too seriously. But the important thing was he came on board.
Why did you think Jammeh was a good choice, in spite of the protestations of your senior, Basiru Barrow?
Well, we needed additional officers. He had served in the Presidential Guard, and perhaps his inside knowledge would help in the planning, in drawing the plan.
Or was he just a ready-made candidate in view of the fact that he was always against the government?
Not at all. I can explain to you how I came to be acquainted with Jammeh, but it had nothing to do with politics. I had never discussed politics. In fact, at the time that I approached him because we had already built up a relationship, and not because of his views.
All right, proceed. So now you've recruited Jammeh. So it's now four of you.
Sir. Yes.
Basiru Barrow, Edward Singhateh, Sana Sabali, and Yaya Jammeh.
Yes, sir. Then, after Jammeh had come on board, Basiru Barrow decided to withdraw.
Why?
Well, like I said, it had leaked, and the tension was building. We were being watched by military intelligence. We knew that. All along, let me also shed light on this second part of it. There was a parallel process also being run. It is not only the recruitment of the officers.
What do you mean by a parallel process being run?
Yes, sir, that is what I'm trying to explain. 4 or 5 officers alone cannot take over a government without the buy-in of the soldiers. And And so I used my position as platoon commander in Alpha Company, and I was the only platoon commander at the time, so I was basically taking care of all of the 3 platoons. Under Major Mamadou Baji, I was the subaltern, I was a junior officer, so I would act as platoon commander, even though according to the military hierarchy, if at all the platoon commander is not there, then the platoon sergeant will stand in for the platoon commander. And I was platoon commander for 1st platoon. There was the senior sergeant acting for 2nd platoon, and so on and so forth for the 3rd platoon. But still, as the officer, I was the one who was giving guidance. And I had developed a relationship with my troops. This relationship was built with confidence. I would make sure that I look after the welfare of my soldiers. I would counsel them. I would be concerned about their welfare. And for example, you have a good soldier who, for some reason, doesn't turn up for duty. Now, rather than charge him with an offense for being absent from place of duty, I will counsel him and find out what is happening at home.
Essentially, you developed a relationship with your troops, and they trusted you.
Yes, absolutely.
And proceed from there.
So what I did was I slowly got buy-in of a few, and then extended it and extended it and extended it until generally I got the buy-in of Alpha Company. And I was the only officer amongst us that was in command of soldiers at the time. Kanasabali was in charge of support weapons. He had no weapons. He had no troops. He had no office. He was a refugee in the camp. He was just roaming around until he was given a small place somewhere. So I used that connection with my connection with the troops to get them on board, and that is why I said there was a parallel process. So whilst the officers were preparing themselves, I was preparing the troops at the same time. Even though when Sana Sabali was a duty officer, he would talk to the soldiers on duty at the time, but you just cannot stand in front of a parade and tell them, look, we are going to overthrow a government, who is in? No, you cannot do that. There's a way that you have to slowly inculcate your thinking into the troops' thinking and then get their buy-in.
So apart from getting Alpha Company soldiers to support your cause, did you get any other officers?
Officers or soldiers?
Did you get additional officers?
Additional officers, after Basiru withdrew, there was 3 of us again. Myself, Sana Sabali, and now Lieutenant Jammeh. And we agreed that, look, really, we cannot launch a coup with just the 3 of us. We need officers to be in command of the troops, to lead them into battle if need be. So we decided at that time to recruit Sadi Buhaidra. But excuse me, let me come back. I've forgotten one point when you talk about officers. Yankuba Toure was posted to Farafenye, but intermittently he would come down to Banjul to collect the pay for soldiers who were receiving their salaries over the pay table. And this was even before Yaya Jammeh came in. When he passed by Yundum once, and I called him aside and I spoke to him. And I told him that this is what is happening. And I know for a fact that if whatever we launch from Banjul, well, before I went into that, I got his buy-in once he agreed to be part of it. I told him that, look, his role would be not only to bring soldiers on board from Farafenni, but if he could not do that, was because I know for a fact that if we launch from Banjul, there would be a counter-attack from Farafenni, that he should make sure that he stalls or stops that attack. And that is how Yankuba Toure came on board.
So he was an original member of the group?
The original 5, like I said, but he was brought on board subsequently, but that was his only role. And because he was not at Yundum or in the combos at the time, he did not play an active role in the takeover of the July 22nd itself. In fact, he came down to Banjul a couple of days later because we had stopped the ferries from crossing. They could not cross.
But he is one of those who originally agreed
yes, he
to
was,
participating in the coup.
Yes, sir, he
so
was.
Now you have 4 of you.
Yes.
Proceed.
So we decided that, well, we need somebody else on board, at least one person. And we looked at the possibility of bringing Sadu Buhaidra on board. But we agreed that we would not give him the full details of the plan. What we would do was tell him that this is going to happen if we are arrested or something happens, because it had leaked and, excuse me, it had leaked and
premiering soon on GRTS, Talking Tech and Business. The first ever technology and business show where we explore Gambia's digital evolution, newest trends in technology,
able to really deal with the pressure, who did not buckle under all that pressure?
Well, I would not say that, I would not want you to try to separate the wheat from the chaff in that manner. It was our idea from inception, myself.
We know that, Mr. Singhateh, yes, but you just told us that this is pressure that is difficult to withstand. Not everybody could withstand it. Your senior officers, like Nur Cham, for instance, behaved irrationally during the planning period. What I want to establish is that the three of you at least were able to withstand that pressure and ultimately carry out the coup.
Okay, if you put it that way, yes. But I don't want it to be painted as if we were the ones that stood out from the rest. Remember, myself and Sana Sab, it was our conception, it was our plan. We believed in it. Everyone else was brought on board.
But the fact remains that the three of you were able to withstand the pressure in spite of all the rumors about coup. You were able to withstand that pressure, and ultimately you carried on and carried out a coup.
Yes, sir.
Good. So, what was the initial plan? What were you going to do? What was the first plan?
The initial plan was to take State House. This is what I proposed. I was overruled, and they told me that no, we will arrest the head of state when he arrives at the airport. And I explained to them that, look, there will be civilians there. He's coming on a commercial flight. There will be civilians on the plane. Dignitaries coming to meet him. We cannot risk launching something like this that may involve exchange of fire in such a public place. But they told me, no, this is what we will do. So,
who made that decision?
Well, it was generally an agreement. Well, I would not say an agreement. This is what they felt. This is what Jammeh felt. This is what Sana felt. Who else was there at the meeting? Was it Ndur Cham or Alaji Kante? I cannot remember who else was at that meeting, but I know I was overruled, and so what I did, I drew the plans for both the airport and State House at the same time.
Were these written plans or just plans you had in your head and you discussed amongst yourselves?
No, they were all written down and well documented. Written.
Do you have copies? Do you still have copies? You will be interested.
The night of the 21st, when the coup failed and we knew we were in deep trouble, I ran home and I burnt everything.
You hid the evidence?
I burnt it.
You burnt the evidence?
Yes, I did. I burnt everything.
Right.
However, obviously I drew the plans. I knew exactly what to do. I had briefed the soldiers prior to go into the airport. All of those soldiers within the Guard of Honor that we needed to, in fact, the plan was that when the president goes between the Guard of Honor, but should I be saying this in public?
Well, I think...
should I be saying some of these things in public? I think...
But the only exception is national security information. But I'm not sure whether this qualifies. But
well, you know, you made a decision about 40 minutes ago not to go into the discussion of a certain thing because of the prevailing circumstances in the country. I also do not want to give ideas to somebody who might say, this man said it, and then
fair enough. If you think it gives ideas to others as to how to stage a coup, perhaps maybe we could skip that. But your idea was that at the airport the president would be arrested.
Yeah.
And why didn't that happen?
Okay. Like I said, sorry, you're confused.
No,
okay.
Please, proceed.
Like I said, I will skip the details of it, and I will be available for whatever details you want.
No, please, by all means. Go ahead.
But generally, it was for the airport. But I can explain exactly what plans, how I drew up the plans for State House. But that one failed. Now, the plan...
Why did it fail?
Yes, I'm coming to that. Not only had it leaked, and that we were searched before we went on parade, Jammeh was disarmed. Sana Sabali was supposed to bring ammunition to the airport because we didn't have any ammunition. And upon his arrival and distribution of the ammunition, which should have coincided with the plane parking at the on the apron, then we would have launched. But because we did not have the tools to implement, we could not. That is why it failed.
But we received evidence that after the airport, soldiers went back to barracks. There was talk about it among the soldiers. Even the Nigerians were aware that a coup was in the making.
Yes, that, like I said, it had leaked. In fact, I was a member of the Color Party. The Color Party, those that hold...
What is Color Party?
Yes,
for those of us?
yes. Those that hold the national colors, the flags, national colors, and the battalion colors. Okay, you understand?
Yes, I do.
Yes. So, when we went to receive the colors from the battalion commander's office, there was Colonel Okoji from Army Headquarters seated in the battalion commander's office, along with Captain Biran Sen, who was in charge of military intelligence. So, they are never there when we go to retrieve the colors from the battalion commander's office. Prior to that, I think...
So you're suggesting, therefore, that they must have known something was happening?
Of course they knew. I mean, we knew that they knew. In fact, prior to that, a couple of soldiers were arrested and taken to the then NSS, a defunct NIA. And I cannot remember exactly who and who they were, but they were interrogated on what was happening in Yundum. So obviously it had leaked, it was rife. Soldiers were talking about it in the camp. Yes.
Just one last point before we go on our first break.
Yes,
We've
sir.
received testimony from a soldier who said he was there and he had Jammeh walked into Colonel Akoji's office. No, not Colonel Akoji, the commanding officer at Yundum Barracks at the time.
Colonel Audu.
Yes, and he told him that everything has failed. And the guy told him, but the president is going home at State House.
It's not true.
It's not true.
And I will tell you why. Jammeh was at the airport. Obviously, the president leaves before anybody leaves. When he came and inspected the Guard of Honor, he left. And so Jammeh could not at that time have been in Yundum Barracks to tell Colonel Audu that it had failed.
No, maybe I mischaracterized it a bit, or maybe I was misunderstood. That after all the soldiers have left Yundum Barracks, sorry, the airport, and returned to Yundum Barracks, Jammeh walked into this colonel's office and told him, well, everything has failed. And the Nigerian officer responded that, but it hasn't failed. This man, the president, is going home to State House.
Not true. That is not true at all. First of all, you don't just walk into the battalion commander's office. Secondly, Jammeh and this particular Colonel Audu, were like cat and mouse. They did not see eye to eye.
Would you say
yes,
that the Nigerian officers were aware that a coup was in the making and they just gave it a blind eye?
No, I would not say that. You see, in order for you to take drastic measures, you need strong enough evidence. I don't believe that they were talking enough to Gambian soldiers or Gambian officers. There was that divide, and also which brought a little bit of discontent. So we worked freely under their nose, perhaps to their knowledge, but there was nothing that they could have done. They could have done something about it, but nothing was done because it was perhaps it was just seen as a rumor.
Well, Nigeria is known to have had the most coups in West Africa, and the Nigerian officers obviously are used to coup d'etats. We received evidence suggesting that these Nigerian officers in fact encouraged the Gambian officers to stage a coup d'etat.
That is not true. I was one of those from that started this. There was no encouragement from any Nigerian officer or soldier at Yundum at the time, or in Farafenni or anywhere.
But did they give a blind eye to what was obvious in the camp at the time?
No, I don't believe that they gave a blind eye.
Thank you very much. This is a good point to stop, and we come back after the time the chair would direct.
Thank you, the council. Thank you, witness. We'll come back at 5 minutes after 12. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Yes, thank you.